Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. So I'm here today with our March wrap-up. If you didn't know, there's a readathon that happens in March called Middle Grade March. And it's hosted by Krista from Books and Jams, and Katie from Life Between Words, and Amanda from The Curly Reader, and I can't remember. Oh my goodness, so horrible. I'll leave it linked below. But it's just a month-long readathon encouraging you to read as many middle grade books as possible. They do have prompts, they have a group read, it's a whole thing. Every year I say I'm going to read middle grade, and I do. I usually read one, maybe two, but this year I was committed, and Emily joined in on the fun. So, right. How many books did you read?
I read 4.
She read 4. I read 5 middle grades plus a few adult books. I read 11 books this month.
You guys were like, some of them were short chapters, mine were longer too.
It doesn't matter.
And you read the first ones, so let's go by quicker.
Okay. So we're going to talk to you about the books that you read, and maybe I'll go first and then we'll trade off.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like order. I don't know. Let's just pick. One of the books I picked up was Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. This is I think there's 4 books. It's a series of books. And they're supposed to be reminiscent of like R.L. Stine and Goosebumps type of mysteries. And the creep factor was like off the charts with this. So our main character, we have 11-year-old Ollie and her 2 friends, Coco and Brian. They set off on this adventure into the woods as night is falling, and there are all of these scarecrows all over the place, and you don't know if they're really watching you, or you feel like they're watching you, or what's going to happen, but there's all kinds of creepiness, and I was here for it, and I loved it, and I'm just going to give it to her because she's going to want to read it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Yep. All right, what's the book that you read?
I read Mother Knows Best. It's a part of the villain series, which I mentioned in the one we did before. It's just a different one. It follows Mother Gothel and her upbringing, and then what led her to do what she did to Rapunzel. And what page am I on? 88. And
So far, so good?
Yeah, it's really good so far.
All right,
So, yeah.
I like it.
Can't really tell much about that because I'm not.
And it's part of a series, right?
Yeah, it's part of a series. So.
Another book I picked up was Otter by Catherine Applegate. She also wrote, was it The One and Only Ivan, right? Yes, which I absolutely loved.
There's a map.
There's a map.
I know the map.
It's a map. So this is told in verse, and it follows the story of an otter named Otter. And it's super cute. I mean, let's just look at that picture. Super sweet. I think I read it in like a day. But it talks about kind of her adventure. It's fantastic.
I'm taking all of these.
I figured you'd take all of them.
Can't tell. I probably will. Another one that I have is Am I There Yet? It's basically like a self-help growing up book. It was really good. I read it, I think, every night. I think it was like a week and I finished it. It was very good. Yeah.
What's one thing in the book that you read that really kind of sticks with you? She even has tabs.
Yeah. You gave me tabs. So this one, it's like, and there's one other one where it's, like what it looks like from, like going through the, like your life. It looks like you're going all over the place, but really, like if you look at like a map, it looks like you're going in a straight line.
Sure. Treasure hunt to find yourself.
That's the show.
I love it.
I think I went on to get it out. I did it not. You can go while I find it.
Okay. The next book that I read was When the World Was Ours by Liz Kessler. This was doted on by Amanda as well as Amber from Books and Beaches. It's a World War II historical fiction middle grade book. We have Leo, Elsa, and Max at the beginning of the war, and it explores like their friendship and how close they are and how nothing else matters but the 3 of them hanging out and being together. And then war hits, and so we have Leo and Elsa, who are Jewish children, and Max, who is not, and kind of follows them as far as where they end up, how the war affects each one of them, and whether or not they think of each other throughout that time. Heartbreaking, yet, I mean, the friendship's like no other. It was fantastic. Highly, highly recommend this one.
Oh. Yeah, that's what I was trying to mention.
Oh yeah. What it looks like now and what it will look like in hindsight.
Yeah.
That's a good one too. Do you want When the World Was Ours? Okay.
Just give me them when you're done. Another one that I did, I finished Sisters again. It follows, I always say it wrong, Lana Tingler, and it's a true story about her experience going from, I think, was it Colorado? I think it was from Colorado to California or San Francisco, I think it was. And them going to meet the cousins and her having to go with her sister and how they managed to survive being left alone in the car for hours and how they managed to survive a lot of stuff.
All right.
So.
Speaking of survival, I read Alone by Megan Freeman. This is another book told in verse, which I read quite quickly, but just still get me absolutely sucked in. This follows 12-year-old Maddie, and she decides to put together this very keen plan to have this secret sleepover where her and two of her best friends are going to go stay at her grandmother's house overnight, and they're all going to kind of tell their parents that they're sleeping over at each other's houses. Maddie's parents are no longer together, so she tells her mom she'll be at her dad's, she tells her dad she'll be at her mom's. And the night that the sleepover happens, her two friends are not able to make it, and she's like, I'm still going to go. So she's there by herself as this town has woken up in the middle of the night and mysteriously evacuated. Everyone is told to leave. She is a little nervous, so she doesn't necessarily answer the door, and she kind of just pretends that nobody's home. And so she wakes up the next day and everyone is gone, and she's the only one left. And she needs to figure out how to survive, how to get food, and she comes along this really, really sweet dog that becomes one of her best friends. But it's a really great story about about realizing what you really do have inside of you and the strength that you have and the confidence that you have, and you can do hard things. It's a great story. I think you'll really like it.
Yeah. Alright, my next book is Enola Holmes, and I'm still reading it. I'm on page, just to give you guys where I'm at, 72, 73. It follows Enola Holmes, and right now in the book, a client has come to her for a case, and it is to investigate her sister's death. And the sister that hasn't died thinks that her sister is actually alive because the one that her sister's married to, his other wife was also died, and she was wearing a black, I don't know how to say it, brooch. I don't know. Black brooch. I don't know.
But Enola is Sherlock Holmes's sister,
Yeah.
so she is hired to solve crimes, right?
Yeah.
And there's a show on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Netflix. Yeah, it's really cute.
So.
Cool. All right, the last middle grade I read was Front Desk by Kelly Yang. This was so fantastic. This follows our main character. What is her name? I don't remember. Oh, Mia. It's right at the top. As her and her family move into a hotel because her parents got a job managing the hotel, and it comes with free room and board. So it ends up being a bigger job than her parents were expecting it to be. So maybe it's Mia.
Yeah, it's me.
Mia. She pitches it. So she mans the front desk while her parents are cleaning the rooms. And her parents end up hiding immigrants there from China, which the owner of the hotel would be very, very mad about. And Mia is an aspiring writer, and so she approaches every situation with, I'll just write him a letter. It's so fantastic. I loved it. There is actually a second book in this that I need to pick up. It was super cute.
That's 3 keys, and Melly has it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I did read a pile of books that were not middle grade as well this month. I listened to The Angel Maker by Alex North. I got this on NetGalley as an ARC, and I've enjoyed Alex North's books before. I read The Whisper Man, and as well as, what was the other one? Shadows or something? Anyways, it's a creepy book. I feel like because I listened to it, I missed some things. It's a pretty complicated story about a man who apparently can predict the future or write the future. It's confusing. So I think I need to give it another try. I gave it 3 stars, but I think I missed it. I think I missed a lot. The next book I picked up, it was also Memoir March. So for that, I read Between Two Kingdoms by Salika Jaoud. She ended up being diagnosed with lymphoma very young in her life, in her 20s. So this is basically the journey before, during, and after of her cancer journey. Really beautifully written book. There's a number of passages in here that just stuck with me. I was messaging a girl I work with, like, back and forth, like, oh my gosh, listen to this, and oh my gosh, listen to this. It was just, her take on life is fantastic, and she talks about living in fear is not living. It's so fantastic. I really highly recommend it. It's a memoir, but it reads like a fictional book, and she's also a really fun person to follow on Instagram. Another book that I picked up in March was I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. This is her newest book, and I think the last book I needed to read that she wrote. I think I've read all of her books, and it did not disappoint. It was fantastic. This takes place in the 1980s in Romania, as the Romanians are in a communist state, and their dictator is a horrible human being that is making it seem like everything is so grand to the outside world, but really oppressing the people who live in the country. And this follows our 17-year-old Christian. He also dreams of becoming a writer. It's kind of a theme in my books, I guess. And kind of how he survives. His grandfather in this book is such a unique character. I really loved him, but love this book. Ruta Sepetys does her beyond her due diligence of research, and so this totally took me down a rabbit hole, because this was like late 80s into the 90s, and I was a kid, but no clue what was going on. So fantastic read. Let's see. Then I read a couple of books on my Kindle. I read The Senator's Wife by Liv Constantine. This one comes out in May, I believe. Loved The Last Mrs. Parrish, so I couldn't help but pick up The Senator's Wife. And we were in Washington, D.C. while I was reading it, and you know me and atmospheric books. I just can't help myself. So this follows, how do I even start this? It follows a couple who have a very interesting past and an interesting way that they have come together. And you know there's something fishy going on, but you're not quite sure who's doing what. And it really focuses on the senator's wife. She has surgery and then kind of goes downhill from there. So you're getting multiple perspectives and getting a little taste of everything, but not the whole thing. So love how Liv Constantine does that and just keeps you guessing. I couldn't put this one down. I think I read it in like 2 days. I also read The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. I need to read more books by Frida McFadden. Oh, this was fantastic. It's a really quick read. And as soon as I finished it, I actually gave it to a friend of mine. We were on this road trip together. So I literally took it to her car. I'm like, okay, your turn. And she already read it in like a day. Like the day we came back, Megan read it, the whole thing. So this follows our main character who grew up with a father who was a serial killer. And she didn't know about it until basically she went down in the basement and found things. Always was curious as to why the basement door was always locked. And then she figured it out, ended up kind of growing up, becoming a doctor herself, and certain things start rehashing that really all points to her. So really quick read. It was fantastic. Loved the entire thing.
I have a few that I do not have with me, but I read a book called El Defo, and it follows a deaf girl, and she turned deaf, I think at 4, or 5, and from then on she was deaf, and she had to grow up with her secret identity, and like she grew into it, where she thought that she was a superhero because she could hear teachers everywhere they went. And so at the end of the book, she finally comes out to like everybody and says like, I'm on death row, and like that's what she wants to be.
Huh.
And then I also read another one. They're both graphic novels, and they call us enemy. It's about World War II internment camps.
Okay.
And
yeah, we talked about that too, right?
From a perspective of the son talking to his dad about it. So.
All right. And the last book I want to talk about is Castle of Water. This is by Dane Huckelbridge. This has been on my shelf for way too long, embarrassing long time. And I don't know what I was afraid of, but I finally picked this up, and it basically is a survival story. We have two very different people who end up on a deserted island after a plane crash, and you go through, again, how they survive, the relationship they have. There's some really good foreshadowing in this book, and just, it is so beautifully written. I'm not a big literary fiction fan. I like a really solid plot, and I like things to really happen. This one was a good marry of both worlds. It was literary, yet it continued to keep me engaged and continued to keep me wanting to read this book. Fantastic. What did I give it? 4 stars. So definitely one that needs to be picked up. I really enjoyed it. And I know Krista is already claiming this for the Christmas book exchange. So those were all the books that we read in March.
Yep.
Pretty solid month, I would say. What I'm reading next, I don't know. I'm still loving this mood reading kick that I'm kind of on. We'll see what April brings. Definitely in a thriller mood, so there's gonna be some more of those coming. Oh, I have a few too, if you didn't notice. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you've been reading lately. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.